Hello, it's Lou, and I want to talk about my thoughts on using AI as a web designer and uh, I guess technically someone who should be up to speed with current technology and where that's going and all that. And um, being a tech person, you kind of it's easy to assume that somebody, needs to be, um, on top of and up to speed with whatever the latest and the newest thing um, everyone's using. Um, so I wanted to talk about this because also like everyone kind of has their own personal stance on AI. You've got the pro AI people and the anti AI people. Um, and you don't really hear too much from the people who are in between, and I guess because the 100% pro and the 100% anti are like, the two extreme ends of the spectrum, and it's usually the more extreme ones who are the loudest and create the most controversy. Um, yeah, so I mean, I try not to be like fuzzy and gray on things because yeah, people don't like that. But I like for the most part am quote unquote anti. I have been thinking like very long and very deeply about this, and I've been listening to what people are saying from different ends of the spectrum. In terms of how great AI is and how terrible it is. Um, and I also like want to make sure it's clear here that it's very like it's very nuanced. When we're talking about, AI, I think most people are thinking about like ChatGPT and their LLM chat buddies. Um, but I think there's more to this technology than just like using it to generate bodies of writing and pictures. Um, yeah. So where should I start? So the first thing that I want to say is just because something is innovative and everybody's using it and it's so wonderful, it doesn't mean that it's perfect and it doesn't mean that it's not harming us, right? So we can draw attention to things like lead, asbestos, plastic, right? So these things like may be like wonderful to build things with. Um, but it's only until much later that we realize, oh, like actually this asbestos thing is dangerous. It's like causing lifelong health problems in people and we're discovering that with plastic as well. So yeah, just because something is great and it's ubiquitous and everyone's using it and it's easy to build with, it doesn't mean that it's not harmful. And there certainly are harmful things you can do with the AI chatbots, with the LLMs that generate stuff for us. So the biggest and most obvious harmful thing that's happening right now is um, this war between artists and people who generate images with AI. And I find that the people who are very excited and precious about their AI generated images, they feel like that they're sort of been a victim of not having the skill and talent or the patience to put together a beautiful image. So they're kind of going, ah ha ha, I am beating you now. You can't stop us. We've got the tools now. Take that, artists. And it's when I hear these conversations, it comes across as a lot meaner than that. It sounds like quite vicious from some of the loudest people. And I don't like that. Like I don't think we should have to be like that. If you've got a talent and you've got a passion and you've got the patience to put something together, that's great. And if you don't, I don't see why you should be so mean and upset to people who do. Like I don't consider myself a fiction writer, but when I read something really good, I appreciate what that person did to put it together. Similarly, I'm not a great visual artist, but when I see something good, I appreciate what the person did, not just the output of what they did. Right? So that's where I sit with that. So yeah, for the most part, yeah, I'm opposed to that. Um, I'm also just, generally opposed to, ah ha ha, we don't need to pay humans anymore. Look at what the machines can do. Some of it is just like really silly and just like the kind of busy work that people would have been doing anyways now are being handed off to machines. And it's all just kind of like silly performative stuff that just look at the numbers, look at what's happening, look at this all the stuff that's going on. And I have to like stop and ask, like, does this really have any meaningful substance to society? Um, I question things a lot, and I try to, go beneath the surface of things as much as I can, and ask like, who is this really benefiting? Because I see work, look at all this productivity, look at all this thing we do, but okay, are people getting housed and fed and keeping the lights on? I don't know. Help me make that link. If people are getting like medical diagnosis better and faster, okay, great. Um, if we're doing harmful things like creating diseases faster or building all these data centers to crush the natural environment, I'm gonna have to beg the question of whether this is good or not. Yeah, the environmental thing, comes up in people's arguments as well. Like, oh, it's using power and water, but then it's like, oh, but agriculture uses water, and your mobile phone uses technology. It Yes, the amounts of the consumption is different, but it's still consumption, and I count it all at the end of the day, whether it's bigger or less than. I take all of the consumption into consideration, and then I take into consideration all the beneficial and harmful things that are going on. Um, you know, I don't think of all this stuff in black and white. Um, so when it comes to like thinking about how I can and should be using it, I pondered this a lot, and the only thing I could really come up with in terms of using AI, generative AI, I can use it to shortcut code, and that's one thing. And I would have otherwise been taking shortcuts in code by using something like Stack Overflow, just to see what other people have done. And then when I looked at other arguments for using AI in my workflow, um, the only thing I could really come up with was generating more content faster. And it really got me wondering, like, why I'm doing this. And I feel like the only reason I can think of to do it was to more quickly produce articles and content that had a chance of surfacing in search results. And the creation process and the thought about the creation process became more like I need to do this faster and less like I need to like really stop and think about what's going on. And so I'm struggling with this idea that I have to have this huge bank of content and just wait and hope that it's gonna get picked up by a search algorithm. It can do, and I'm sure there are ways to like increase the likelihood of that stuff showing up. Um, and a massive part of that is not just producing the content, but also like making yourself known and getting cited. And I think that's really tricky to do, especially if you don't have connections with other human beings who will talk about you and cite you and reference you. Um, if you don't have that, then all you can really do is produce more and more content and try to connect that with search queries that people are typing into Google or their search engine and just hope that it surfaces somehow. Um, so yeah, with this SEO thing, feels like a gamble to me. Feel like, you have to like play lots and lots and lots of tokens with the hopes that you may win someday. And yeah, I'm really hoping I'm open to hearing like thoughts about this. But yeah, the way I see it, I feel like just doing content for SEO nowadays is just kind of like it's more of a gamble. And the only time I genuinely see it work is when something doesn't already exist to satisfy a search query. So the only time I'd be absolutely confident is when something doesn't already exist to satisfy that search phrase. And um, in terms of like an ROI and a return on investment generating situation, the only time that makes sense for me to do that is when we're doing like service name in suburb. If something doesn't exist, if a page on the internet doesn't exist to match service name in suburb, then yeah, I would argue for creating a page, an SEO optimized page to answer that query and then tie that service in suburb to an inquiry form or a booking form or a phone number, and then you can define that as yeah, that's an SEO thing that we did, and we got a return on that. It wasn't, a waste. But yeah, I'm open to uh, hearing like other suggestions and thoughts on that. Um, And then you also got to think like I've been hearing, different sides of whether LLMs are beneficial or not to the public, to the non-techie, non-business, non-marketing people. And I'm seeing like two sort of ends of the spectrum here. We've got people who do not want LLMs to find answers for them at all. And they don't want them in their software. They don't want them in their phones. They don't want them in their web browsing sessions. And that's fine. And then you've got the other end who are like, oh, ChatGPT or Claude is my buddy. It helps me with everything. I don't have to talk to people. It's so great. Um, and I'm just thinking like I've given like LLMs a chance to find information for me. And when like my query is more like I want to research and find more information, I think Perplexity kind of does that okay. But things like Google's Gemini and ChatGPT, I think they're more prone to hallucinating answers. The other day, actually, Gemini admitted that it hallucinated information, so that was interesting. Um, and another thing that's kind of important to say is that, um, sure, maybe like these LLMs save us time in looking for answers, but I think it's important to just not take the first thing that they give you as like the absolute answer. Like once they give you an answer, look into it a little bit more. Not just because the AI can hallucinate, but also because the people who run these platforms actually have a say in the kind of answers that the machine can surface, right? So I mean, I'm thinking of one um, chatbot where the owner can say, when a user types a query and they get an answer, I don't like the information that the user gets about me. So can we engineer the software so that we change what the chatbot answers when the user asks a query about me? That is a kind of thing that I believe is entirely plausible and something that I would consider being aware of. Um, so where I want to sort of conclude on this is like, so I don't think I will be using an LLM to write stuff for me, because also like if I do that, I think I just feel less satisfied, like and I just yeah, I think you might think of it as like, trusting another staff member to write something for you. But even then, like it just like it hasn't felt right. And now that I'm learning that um like the AI companies are destroying books, I was yeah a bit taken back by that. And I've also like heard different perspectives on this, and it's like, oh well, like these books would never have been read by somebody anyway. They would have just ended up pulped and in a dump anyway, even if the AI company didn't scan them. Um, but there's also been like I heard someone who was kind of an outlier and said, I am that one person out of billions who would have actually found that book interesting. So yeah, I would prefer that they didn't have to eat up books to get material to train off. I think in an ideal world, human beings would be voluntarily contributing knowledge and art and speaking and information. But the fact that human beings are not voluntarily giving this, that makes me question like whether this is overall a good thing. And then of course you've got the whole need for the technical architecture and infrastructure to support these things. The smarter and more powerful these AI machines get, the more land, the more water, and the more electricity they need. And there's a finite amount of that. I just want to make sure we all know that there's actual like studies that prove that there's finite resources. There's not infinite amount of resources. So if the technologists want to make this stuff smarter, they're going to have to eat more and more resources. So yeah, just want to make sure we're sitting with that. Um, but yeah, just going forward, yeah, I want to like do less amounts of content, less individual pieces. And what I do produce will be more thought through. So I am actually writing a book, Lou's Guide to the Web for Small Business Owners. It will be 100% written by me, so I won't be asking Claude or any AI to fill in the gaps for me. Um, I will be writing it all myself. It'll be from my mind and presentations I've previously given and blogs that I've previously written. And it will be in layman's terms, understanding being on the web, being on the internet for a small business owner. And I will, where it makes sense, also confer with other web experts just to make sure that I've got things as accurate as possible. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to be writing it. I do like really feel good about helping people understand things that are maybe out of their reach. So I hope you all enjoy it. And yeah, thank you all for being here with me today. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.